All right, so tell me why you're suing the president.
Okay. So the lawsuit against the president is challenging Executive Order 14321. It's called Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets, but it actually tries to revive vagrancy laws, which basically target people who have the status of being homeless or unhoused, having mental health conditions, or having substance use disorders.
Is that what a vagrancy law is?
Yes, a vagrancy law is something that it uses broad language. I'm gonna tell you why vagrancy laws are unconstitutional as well as what they are. What vagrancy was considered was is it's who you are, it's not what you've done. So a vagrant is someone who does not have a job, who exists in public, who sleeps outside, who begs for money. They may or may not be doing those things at any given time, but vagrancy laws target the vagrant as opposed to the actual acts that may be happening. What vagrancy laws did was where they gave the police the ability to arbitrarily arrest anybody and to convict them without real concrete definitions of what they were doing wrong. And that's why vagrancy laws were found to be unconstitutional in the 70s.
Because they could target people for who
Yeah,
are.
because the vagrancy laws were vague, they were overbroad, and they encouraged arbitrary arrests.
And so they're targeting people who not what they did, but just people, just who they are, a status of life.
Yes. So the executive order that I'm suing the president over targets homeless people. It basically declares, it actually uses the word vagrancy. It says fighting vagrancy in America's streets.
Oh wow.
And it says, which is crazy, but it says that people who are homeless, people who have mental health conditions, or people who have substance abuse disorders are a danger to themselves or others just by default, and it gives agencies the authority to target them, to lock them up via a process called civil commitment, without having ever charged them with a crime, and force them into what it calls treatment centers. But the way that it is being implemented, it's looking like they're trying to make concentration camps essentially for homeless people.
Why do you think it's leading to concentration camps?
Well, there are agencies throughout the country, particularly the Homeless Services Board in Utah, has designed a new 1,400 bed facility where they're having what they call mandated or mandatory accountability centers. So once somebody is determined to be homeless, they are allowed to be locked up. The theory is that they'll be taken to this accountability center and forced either into treatment, drug treatment. Maybe they need it, maybe they don't. Simply the fact that you're homeless is an indication under this executive order that you're in need of some kind of treatment. So it will force them into this center, and they actually plan on forcing labor. So that you'll be forced to take whatever job that they have lined up for you.
How would they get forced into it?
That's what it says. It'll be a condition of their stay there. Potentially, they'll be held hostage and say, "We're not going to release you until you work for us for a period of time, or until we're in charge of you working for somebody else." I want to let you know the 13th Amendment, uh, which was a part of the process to end chattel slavery in America, to free the slaves. Uh, the 13th Amendment says that involuntary servitude is a crime, except as punishment for a crime. It's illegal unless you've been convicted of committing a crime. So this executive order tries to circumvent that and says, we're just going to take people who are on the street not doing nothing, force them into these facilities, and we're going to put them in the labor camps.
What's the connection between the lawsuit where you're suing the president and the labor camps?
Well, okay, so the Homeless Services Board in Utah expressly drew this up. It says this is our plan to be in compliance with Executive Order 14321. So they're not um, hiding it. One of the exhibits in the suit is a confidential document, but they have written and produced these documents kind of publicly saying that this is a part of our plan to implement this executive order. So it's easy to draw the connection.
Is this all homeless people, or how are they getting the homeless people there?
All homeless people. So this would be Utah's particular implementation, but it is an example of the plans for how this executive order will be used. Essentially, it will be used in all cases to detain people who have not been charged with a crime, and that is a violation of due process. That is a seizure. It's a violation of your Fifth Amendment. Uh, it is a privacy violation. It is a
Well,
liberty interest violation.
I'm trying to figure out how your lawsuit affects this, because so homeless people for now, are they going to take them out of where they live now? Are they going,
That's
how the
another really important part. And this is going on in my case and in two other cases that were filed in Rhode Island, that the executive order is especially insidious because, on the one hand, it says to end funding for Housing First, which is the nationwide primary way of preventing and intervening in homelessness. It says we're going to cut all the funding for Housing First. And what the Housing and Urban Development HUD has done, and they've specifically written that in order to be in compliance with this executive order, they've made changes to the continuum of care that would have made 170,000 individuals nationwide homeless. So it makes about 200,000 homeless people. And then on the other hand, it targets them to lock them up and saying that because you're now homeless, even though we cut the funding to make you homeless, and now that you are homeless, we're going to lock you up.
so cutting the funding to homeless people to put them out in the street, and then the police targeting them to end up in concentration camp.
Yes.
How would the police target them?
Well, one way is that it actually the executive order uh, directs agencies within the continuum of care to turn over the information on their clients who are seeking services uh, from homeless services agencies, whether it's shelter, whether it's referrals for different types of treatment, mental health treatment, or housing services, whatever it is. It instructs these agencies to turn the information on these people over to law enforcement. So it creates a nationwide database of people who are receiving services from the kind of homeless industrial complex. That's one way that it will find and target them. The other ways is that they will actually go out on the street. And as they come into contact with people, they can just arbitrarily say, "Hey, you look homeless to me. Your shoes are dirty. You smell funny. You seem like a drug addict."
How does it
So
give them the right to just grab anybody?
well, what it does is it declares uh, these three categories of individuals, which is people who are homeless and unable to pay for their own upkeep,
Mhm.
people who have mental health disorders, and people who have substance use disorders. It declares them universally a danger to themselves and others, and then it asserts an authority to impose what is called civil commitment, and that is so illegal, it's not funny. It's incredibly unconstitutional.
Why? What is civil commitment?
Well, civil commitment, there is a process where if you are having a mental health crisis, if you have threatened to people, if you go into a hospital and say, "I'm afraid, I believe, I want to myself," there is a process. That process is called civil commitment that gives the hospital the authority to accept you into their psychiatric care units. So this is a existing legal process and medical process whereby individuals are admitted into care, and it takes it and now um, turns it into a law enforcement function. So instead of people who are receiving treatment or they're maybe called to a place like an ambulance or something,